Alrighty, so I don't know how late I am to this because I was gone all day yesterday and I just got home at almost 4 p.m. today. So, yeah, apparently we are getting a rerun of the KOF Collab. They already have the countdown login event going on JP in Korea, which is very, very interesting. I feel like most of the time there's leaks and stuff like that leading up to a collab and everything like that. Because it is a rerun, I could see where maybe that would slip through the cracks a little bit because you know, all of these files are pretty much already in the game. I'm assuming because there was no leaks, I'm guessing that there's probably not going to be any new characters that come along with it because I feel like those would have already gotten data mined and stuff like that. But who knows? We could end up being surprised a little bit, but for the time being, I'm just going to assume that it's going to be the same kind of collab event that it was the first time with the original 4 characters. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to just go over those really quickly, just in case you haven't maybe seen what those characters, or maybe you need a refresher on them, or you just want to know what they do, because this isn't a bad collab at all, honestly. This was a pretty good one, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if they ended up giving out any free copies of characters. I think you got a free copy of Athena, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not too sure. If it's the same collab as it was the first time, I'm probably not going to summon, but I already do own all of the characters from the collab, so I can take this time to just sort of save my gems up, maybe buy some costumes for the ones that I need. Like, I definitely did not buy any costumes for any of them whenever they came around the first time. And to be honest, the only one that I can see really buying any outfits for is Kyo, because he's obviously the best one out of the whole group. But yeah, I think I'm going to try to buy his costumes if possible, and probably call that a collab for me. We'll go over some of the characters and stuff like that whenever it comes to the game for us on Global. But yeah, let's go over the characters really quickly. So the first one is Athena. She's honestly not super great. She wasn't really great whenever she came out originally, but she was pretty decent to stop ult rushing just because of her passive. So her passive is depletes 2 orbs from the ultimate move gauge of all enemies at the end of the turn when an ally hero defeats an enemy during an allied turn in PvP. So basically what that means is if they're ult rushing and they get their ultimate ready to go, and like, or say maybe they're using like Blue Frowdren, for example, who whenever he dies, the rest of your characters on the field immediately get their ultimate move gauges full. You can basically use her in the back line. You don't even have to use her up front because this works from the back or the sub slot, which is fantastic actually. And you can just, as long as you kill someone on the team, so if they're running like Blue Frowdren, for example here, if you kill them, Blue Frowdren's passive will proc, and it will, you know, give all of the other characters on the field their ultimate move gauges filled, so that way they can draw their ultimates. But then Athena's procs, and then you remove 2 ultimate move gauge orbs because you killed someone during your turn. So it's really good to shut down ult rush. Obviously, the big kicker there is you have to be strong enough to kill an enemy during your turn to prevent that. But it's a really decent unit if you can run it with Escanor. Like if you were running for example, like Escanor and the older Ludociel to lower their defense, if you can just, you know, if they're ult rushing or whatever the case may be, you know, you can just immediately beat a character down. They lose 2 ultimate move gauge orbs. I use her specifically for Brawl, which is a little weird, but there's a lot of people in Brawl that do just the sort of like, you know, ult rush sort of gimmicky teams where they'll run Blue Liz or Blue Frowdren, and because the AI is the one playing in most of the matches, they'll end up killing Frowdren or Elizabeth because they're really weak anyway, and then they immediately get ultimate move gauge orbs for that. So on my Escanor team on Brawl, I actually run Athena in the sub slot, so that way, you know, once my Escanor, you know, kills somebody, they immediately lose 2 ultimate move gauge orbs, so that way they can't beat me with their, you know, very gimmicky Lost Vein ult rush teams. She's pretty okay though, just regular sort of damage on her first 2 ranks on Phoenix Arrow, and then on the last one it does cancel stances and it can stun for 1 turn, so that's kind of cool. But like I said, she's more of a sub slot unit, so the odds of you actually getting a level 3 card for her is pretty slim. You could maybe try to get some use out of her in an actual team, but I don't know. She's always been kind of sub-slot material for me. She does have a detonate card, which is pretty decent. This was kind of before detonate was really that good, and I say that like it's always been the same, but there wasn't ever any like units in the game that had a really good detonate card until Bond came out, and I think it's really only good for him because he literally prioritizes HP so much that it makes the damage so much better in general, not just the fact that it's the detonate card, but I don't know. Detonate can be very, very good, but in other times it can be very, very weak. Obviously, it just depends on the situation. But yeah, she does have a detonate card, which is kind of nice. And then her ultimate cancels stances and just deals damage, which pretty standard. Not really anything too crazy there. Keo is the big one that everybody wants and everybody uses, you know, from time to time. He's pretty decent for certain events, like the Croc Shell event that just came around. I think it's still active for a couple of days on global, but yeah, he's actually really, really good for that specifically, which, I mean, I know that doesn't really count for a whole lot, but it's just his passive, really. His passive is basically the biggest thing that makes him good, which is at the beginning of every turn, 2 ignite effects are applied on all enemies for 3 turns, reducing damage dealt to allies by 5% per ignite effect on an enemy. So not only does it give 10% extra damage because of the ignite, like regular ignite effect, but it reduces the damage that your team is going to take depending on how many they have on. It's not as good at the moment because, you know, obviously Margaret is very meta and she can cleanse, but just being able to put insane like ignite stacks on is pretty ridiculous. It does not work in deathmatch and only applies when entering the battle, so he does have to be like a front unit. You can't put him in the sub slot because honestly that would be terribly broken. But he has co-destruction, which is increased damage per debuff, and then his other one is Blaze, which does extra damage per ignite effect. Yeah, so he can deal pretty good damage. He synergizes very well with himself. Green Monspeet is also another character that synergizes very, very good with Monspeet. There used to be a really deadly Monspeet Keo team that people used to run pretty often, and then his ultimate just basically deals damage and then it puts 2 more ignites on. So I don't know. He's probably the best. He's probably the most useful because you can run him on different teams, like the Bond team, for example, because he is a human. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the only reason that I would want to buy his costumes is because he's the most useful out of the whole lineup, kind of. And it would be nice to have extra CC on him, pretty much. Mai is also kind of interesting. She's not like super great, but she has potential, I think. Her passive is increases the hero's basic stats by 15% for 2 turns if their skills are ranked up. So you don't even require Gother for this specifically. You can literally just merge 2 of her cards together and she gets the 15% base stats. So it's basically 3 blue effects, which is good because her AoE skill is actually an amplify. So that's one interesting thing, is that she does have an AoE amplify card, which is, you know, not very common on most units in the game. So if you can build a really good like buffing team, she could be super great and deal just really crazy AoE damage. But because it's an AoE, the modifiers on it are pretty low. The damage isn't like as good as it could be, and then her other card is just a single target attack that depletes ultimate move gauge. And it's okay. I honestly really like her as a character. She's super waifu status, if I'm not mistaken. You know, just personal opinion there. Just she's very hot. But yeah, I like a lot of her skills and stuff like that. They're pretty cool. And then on her ultimate effect, just to help synergize with her passive a little bit more, inflicts damage equal to blah 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 on 1 enemy, so single target, increases the ranks of all of the hero's skills, and it's only hers. It's not the group. It's not like Shin. It doesn't rank up your entire team's skills. It's only Mai's skills that get increased here. So it's not like super great, but you know, it does proc the passive, which is good because if you have cards in hand, then it'll activate. And then I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it attacks first or if you get the buffs first. I think you get the buffs after the ultimate actually goes off, so I don't think it's really going to increase your damage for the ult from the passive, but it's pretty okay. It's not too bad. I feel like she just has potential. Maybe she's not really like a great unit by any means, but she's kind of versatile, being able to deplete ultimate gauges, and like I said, the amplify AoE card is very interesting. And then you have Rugal, who was, I think he was like the big ticket item back when this collab originally came out, because the Pierce team was kind of like off season, I guess. Like the Pierce team had already kind of like came and went, but because he was another AoE Pierce unit, kind of like Blue Demon Melee, it made him really, really good because you could put Melee and Rugal on the team, and it basically revived the Pierce meta for a little while. And honestly, he's really impressive. Like his Pierce card is really good. His other card lowers attack related stats, and it's just a single target, so it's nothing too crazy, but it can deal pretty decent damage. And you know, lowering attack related stats is actually pretty impressive sometimes. Like if you do it on Lostbane per se, because I used him a little bit against Lostbane, which isn't great because he's a green unit, but it would make Lostbane do a lot less damage. But Lostbane is not his, you know, biggest threat anymore. But his passive is what makes him so interesting to use, in my opinion. But it is removes the hero's debuffs, fully heals their HP, and increases all stats by 15% when the hero survives with 50% HP or less. And it happens one time. So basically, if they end up doing more damage to you, or if they do damage to you equal to half of his HP gauge, if he hits 50% or less, he literally just heals back to full. He gains, or he gets rid of all of his debuffs, and he gains extra stats. And you know, he's like a huge tank. He used to be really, really hard to deal with back in the day because there wasn't like revive units or anything like that, like Goddess Liz. So it was really easy for people to just run, you know, Rugal. You get him down to half HP, he has to heal back up. It's really hard to beat through that much, you know, HP, obviously, because back in the day there wasn't as much one-shot potential. But yeah, it was honestly pretty impressive. His ult has charge on it, so it ignores defense. Pretty heavy hitting, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the units. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that it will be a collab that I'm summoning on because I already have all of the units, and even then I think my Kyo is already 5-6, so personally I just don't need anything from it unless there is a new character, which it doesn't seem like there's going to be, but like I said, we don't know for sure. Could be a surprise. But yeah, very interesting. I think this is a good one. A lot of people always talk about not having Kyo, and he is honestly a pretty good character to have. I think for people who have been playing the game for a while and already have these units, this is going to be a really good skip banner. If you're maybe newer and you want these characters, I definitely recommend you going for at least Kyo and probably, you know, stopping after that, because the rest of them are okay, but not great. There was a couple of cool events that came along with this as well, where you could get some free diamonds, and they had like a little tournament game mode, story mode thingy that, you know, cool, like I guess intertwined with the KOF sort of storyline. But yeah, very interesting. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. Kind of excited, to be honest. I'm glad that they're rerunning a collab finally, because I wasn't really thinking it was going to be KOF first, because Slime Collab was the first one, and it kind of feels like it should be the first one to get reran, but it is what it is, I guess. That's pretty much it for me, though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys are planning on summoning or anything like that for it, because I honestly, I don't know how many of you guys are newer, or maybe you have been playing for a long time. Maybe you already have the characters. It's not really all that great of a banner for you then. But yeah, let me know. That's pretty much it for me, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more content in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.